On our wedding anniversary, my husband's best friend crashed the dinner and sneered, "You don't deserve to be treated like a queen." My husband laughed it off. "He's just messing around." I smirked and said, "Then he's gonna love my little prank too." Seconds later, his smile dropped as he realized what I had set in motion. Don't forget to subscribe and comment your thought below. Our wedding anniversary fell on a Thursday that year. Not ideal for a big celebration, but we made it work. I booked us a quiet dinner at one of our favorite spots. Low lights, small tables, soft jazz playing somewhere just low enough to make you lean in to speak. It was the kind of place where you didn't bring drama, didn't shout across the room, didn't show up uninvited. But that's exactly what Jason did. Jason, my husband's best friend since high school. Loud, brash, always half drunk on ego. He was the kind of guy who wore sunglasses indoors and slapped your back too hard when he said hello. He'd been Ryan's best man at our wedding, but I'd always felt like a third wheel in their friendship. It wasn't that Jason didn't like me. He just liked himself more. And he made it clear from the beginning that he thought Ryan had settled down too early. That I was the reason his wingman vanished from weekend bar crawls and bachelor trips. Still, I tolerated him. For Ryan. Over the years, I learned to smile through Jason's passive-aggressive jokes. I laughed when he called me Her Royal Highness every time I asked Ryan to help with something around the house. I let it go when he suggested I was too independent for marriage because I made more money than Ryan. I even bit my tongue the night he joked at a party that if Ryan ever wanted to trade up, he knew where to find him. Ryan always brushed it off. "He's just messing around," he'd say, or "That's just how he is." Like I was the one being too sensitive. Like Jason's disrespect was some unchangeable personality trait we were all supposed to accommodate. So when Ryan asked if I minded if we had dinner just the two of us this year, I was relieved. No family, no friends, just us. I made a reservation a week in advance. Even picked out the wine we'd order ahead of time. We were finally going to have a quiet, uninterrupted evening. Until Jason walked in. He wasn't on the guest list. He wasn't invited. But there he was, leather jacket, cologne thick enough to sting, walking straight toward our table with a grin that already made my stomach turn. Ryan's face lit up when he saw him. "Jason? What the hell? How did you even know we were here?" Jason clapped Ryan on the shoulder like they were meeting at a bar, not crashing a private dinner. "I got my ways," he said, pulling out the empty chair across from me without asking. "Figured I'd stop by and say congrats to the happy couple." I didn't smile. He didn't care. He waved at the waiter, ordered a whiskey without asking if we were okay with it, then leaned back like he owned the place. "I was telling someone earlier today," he said, looking right at me. "Marriage is wild, isn't it? Some people get lucky. Some people pretend they're royalty." I raised an eyebrow. Jason smirked. "You don't deserve to be treated like a queen. But hey, Ryan's always been generous." Ryan laughed. Actually laughed. "Man, you're such a jerk." Jason laughed harder, like they were teenagers again. And that's when I realized Ryan wasn't surprised Jason showed up. He might not have planned it, but he wasn't upset either. He was entertained. Like this was some boys will be boys prank. Like I was just one of the guys, supposed to laugh along while Jason mocked me on our wedding anniversary. So I smiled. Not because it was funny, but because I knew something he didn't. Something I'd set in motion 6 days earlier. "Then he's gonna love my little prank too," I said. Ryan looked at me, confused for the first time. What prank? But I didn't answer. Just took a sip of wine and watched Jason throw back his whiskey. Because this wasn't the first time Jason had crossed a line. And it wasn't the first time Ryan had let him. But it was the last time either of them would laugh at my expense. 6 days before our anniversary dinner, I came home early. It wasn't planned. I told Ryan I'd be stuck late with back-to-back meetings at work, and that I'd probably just grab something on the way home. But 2 of the meetings got canceled. I left the office around 4:30, picked up some Thai food, and decided to surprise him. We'd been running in different directions lately, and I thought a quiet night in would be good for us. When I pulled into the driveway, I saw Ryan's car. That made sense. He usually worked from home on Wednesdays. What didn't make sense was the other car, Jason's. Parked the same way he always did. Sloppy, crooked, with one tire in the grass like he'd skidded into the spot on a dare. I hadn't seen Jason in weeks, which I thought was intentional. Seeing his car there, on a weekday afternoon, felt wrong. I grabbed the food, got out of the car, and walked slowly toward the house. As I got closer, I heard voices coming from the back patio. Laughter. Loud, relaxed. I didn't go through the front door. I cut around the side of the house, behind the hedges, and crouched near the patio fence. I know how that sounds. Immature, dramatic, but something in their tone made me freeze. I just listened. Jason's voice was unmistakable. "She's smart, I'll give her that, but bro, I don't know how you live with her. She's got CFO energy 24/7. Like living with a boss who also judges your grocery list." Ryan laughed. That stupid, soft laugh he uses when he doesn't want to pick a side. "It's not that bad." Jason laughed louder. "Not that bad. It used to be fun. We'd hit the bar, watch the game, chase some real tail. Now you've got a bedtime and a monthly calendar invite for sex." Ryan didn't say anything. Jason kept going. "She's got you trained, man. I don't even know if you like being married. You just adapted. Like a houseplant." That's when I stood up and stepped onto the patio. Jason froze mid-sip. Ryan's head whipped around. Don't stop on my account, I said. Sounds like we're just getting to the compliments. They both stared at me, completely caught off guard. Jason tried to recover, smirking. Didn't know you were home, princess. Clearly, I said. I'd ask what I missed, but I think I caught enough. I looked at Ryan. Inside. Now. He hesitated, then went. Jason stayed. Of course he did. He sat back, arms behind his head, acting like nothing was wrong. You know, he said, sneaking around your own backyard's not a good look. Neither is insulting your best friend's wife while drinking beer on her patio. You don't get it, he said. I've known him longer than you have, and I'll know him longer than you ever will. He smirked. You're mad. That's cute. No, I said. You're arrogant. That's pathetic. Then I walked inside. I didn't slam the door. Didn't scream. I went to the kitchen and unpacked the food in silence. Ryan stood there, hands in his pockets, looking like a teenager caught sneaking in after curfew. He was just being an idiot, he said. It didn't mean anything. You didn't stop him. He talks like that. He always has. And you always let him. That night, Ryan slept on the couch. I didn't ask him to. I didn't even talk to him after that. I went to bed, stared at the ceiling, and thought about all the times I had laughed off Jason's jabs, all the little humiliations I swallowed to keep the peace. The next morning, I started digging. Jason wasn't just Ryan's best friend. He was also a walking liability. He'd been bragging about some consulting firm he'd started 2 years ago, a personal brand strategy thing that was supposed to be his ticket out of his old job. He talked big, name-dropped fake clients, made vague references to investor meetings, and posted Instagram stories from hotel bars with captions like closing deals. So I pulled up his business registration. It took 2 minutes to find. Turns out, the company existed on paper and nowhere else. No tax filings, no employee records, no real partners. Just Jason and a recycled mission statement about amplifying authenticity. Then I went deeper. I asked a friend, someone I trust in financial compliance, to look up any public vendor data or open complaints. A day later, she sent me a PDF with more than I expected, a flagged transaction log, bounced payments, a vendor invoice that had been copied and reused twice with different numbers, 2 complaints pending with a freelancer payment platform, 1 chargeback that got his account frozen. It was sloppy, it was stupid, and it was everything I needed. I compiled the reports into a clean, tidy folder. I labeled it Dinner Surprise. I printed out the most damning pieces and organized them into sections. Misuse of business funds. Duplicate invoices. Evidence of tax avoidance. Then I created a fake email account and messaged Jason. I told him it was me, that I wanted to apologize for the tension, that I'd booked a table for 3 on our anniversary because I wanted to start fresh, that I'd talked to Ryan and it was going to be a surprise for him. He responded in minutes. Didn't expect this but love it. Respect. You're all right. I'll be there. Of course he would. Jason never turns down a spotlight. What he didn't know was that he was walking straight into the moment that would end his charade. And Ryan? He didn't know yet. But this was going to be the night he finally had to choose. Not between me and his best friend. Between comfort and truth. And I was done making that choice for him. The restaurant was dim, expensive, and intimate. Soft candlelight, real linen napkins, wine that came with explanations. It was the kind of place you don't walk into wearing jeans, and you definitely don't invite people who think they're the main character at someone else's celebration. But I had. I invited Jason, and I was counting down the minutes until he showed up. Ryan and I arrived right on time. He looked good. Pressed shirt, clean shave, that nervous little smile he wore when he thought we were back on track. I hadn't brought up the patio conversation in days. I hadn't even mentioned Jason. I was calm. Sweet, even. I let him think this was a reset. In his head, he'd won. I was being the bigger person. I let it go. He didn't realize I'd just stopped explaining myself. The waiter brought over our wine. Ryan toasted to us, said something about how proud he was we'd made it through the tough parts. I clinked his glass, smiled, took a sip, let the words hang in the air. I asked him about work, his new project, if Jason had been in touch lately. He shrugged, said not really. I nodded. Interesting. 15 minutes later, Jason strolled in like he owned the place. Leather jacket, smug grin, eyes scanning the room until he found us. He walked right over and pulled out a chair before either of us could react. Look at you two, he said. Married and glowing. Anniversary number what? 5, I said. And counting. Ryan looked at me, puzzled. You invited him? I sipped my wine. Of course. It's a celebration. I thought we could all be adults. Jason laughed and flagged down the waiter. She's finally coming around, huh? He ordered a drink without asking, then leaned back and stretched like he was settling in for a performance. Which he was. He just didn't know what role he'd be playing. For the first 20 minutes, Jason was his usual self. Loud, crude, making little jabs at Ryan, fake flirting with the waitress, saying things like, marriage is just legally enforced monogamy, and hope you got a prenup, man. Ryan half laughed, but I could see the discomfort setting in. Jason didn't notice, or didn't care. Then dessert came. A chocolate tart. 2 forks. I pulled out the envelope. It was clean. Simple. A plain white document sleeve with no markings. I slid it across the table and smiled. This is for you, Jason. He raised an eyebrow. Ooh, what's this? Anniversary card? A love letter. Something like that. He opened it. Slowly at first. He pulled out the first page, glanced at it, flipped to the second. By the third page, the smile was gone. By the fourth, he was pale. By the fifth, his hands were shaking. Ryan leaned over. What is it? Jason didn't answer. He just kept flipping. His lips moved silently as he read. He looked up at me, then back at the pages. Where did you get this? Public records. Business filings. A few vendor complaints. You'd be amazed what you can find when you stop pretending not to notice. Ryan grabbed the packet and started scanning the top page. Then he looked at me. What is this? Fraud, I said calmly. Tax evasion. Falsified invoices. 2 unpaid loans and 1 potential investor lawsuit pending in another state. Jason tried to speak, but the words came out stuttered and flat. This is out of context. No, I said. It's exactly in context. You've been using your fake company to fund your lifestyle. And I'd bet half your stories about clients are as made up as your quarterly reports. Ryan looked stunned. You did this? I nodded. Yes. 6 days ago, actually. Right after I heard your little chat on the patio. You remember that, right? When he said you used to be fun. When you laughed while he called me a dictator? Jason stood up. You think this scares me? You think this is going to do something? I smiled wider. It already has. That copy you're holding is for you. The other copy went to the IRS this morning. Certified mail. With a little note from a concerned acquaintance. He swore. Loudly. People looked over. The waiter started walking toward us, unsure. Ryan stood up too, but he didn't defend Jason. He looked at me instead. You really did this? I looked him in the eye. I'm not a joke, Ryan. I'm not a doormat. And I'm not your PR handler. You've been letting him humiliate me for years, and every time, you laughed. You brushed it off. You made me out to be dramatic. But this is real. And now you get to choose what kind of man you're going to be going forward. Jason shoved the envelope into his jacket and stormed out, knocking over a chair on the way. Ryan just stood there, unsure whether to follow him or sit back down. I didn't tell him what to do. I didn't say a word. Eventually, he sat. The silence between us was thick. He started to speak, but I raised a hand. Don't apologize. Don't defend him. Just think. And I picked up my fork. Because unlike him, I hadn't lost my appetite. The night of the dinner ended with silence. Ryan didn't say much during the car ride home. He drove like someone who'd just walked out of a dream and wasn't sure whether he was awake yet. Hands tight on the wheel, staring straight ahead. I didn't talk either. Not because I was angry, but because I'd already said everything I needed to. What was left wasn't rage. It was exhaustion. That hollow kind of tired you only feel after you've given someone every chance to do the right thing and watched them waste every one of them. We got home. He dropped his keys in the bowl. I went straight to the bedroom, took off my heels, and changed into a t-shirt. When I came out, he was still in the kitchen, just standing there. Same shirt. Same stunned expression. Like he couldn't decide if he was mad at me or disappointed in himself. I didn't know it was that bad, he said. You didn't want to know? I replied. He didn't argue. He sat down at the table and stared at the floor. You sent that to the IRS? Yes. A long pause. Do you think he'll go to jail? Probably not, I said. First-time offenders like him usually get fined, but it'll ruin his business. He'll owe back taxes. He'll be blacklisted with investors. And it'll follow him everywhere he goes for years. Ryan didn't defend Jason. Not anymore. I think even he knew there wasn't anything left to protect. He's my oldest friend, he finally said. I nodded. And I'm your wife. One of us had to matter more. He didn't respond. Not right away. And I didn't push. I went to bed, let him sit there in the quiet. And in that silence, something shifted. Not between us. Within him. The next morning, Jason texted. I saw the notification on Ryan's phone. You gonna let her do this to me? After everything. Ryan didn't reply. He didn't tell me he didn't reply. I only found out later, because I saw the message still sitting there, unopened. Instead, he made breakfast. Brought me coffee. Sat at the table and told me the truth. I used to think loyalty meant never turning your back on people. But I get it now. It doesn't mean keeping everyone close. It means protecting the people who protect you. And Jason never protected us. He just tolerated us. It wasn't a dramatic speech. It wasn't a rom-com moment. But it was honest. And for the first time, I actually saw Ryan take responsibility, not just for Jason, but for all of it. For the years he let someone chip away at our relationship under the label of friendship. Over the next week, everything began to unravel. For Jason, the IRS sent an official inquiry letter. I'd forwarded a complete breakdown of inconsistencies, including the misused PPP loan he thought no one had noticed. Turns out, someone had. His bank. His accountant. They just hadn't had enough to pursue it. Now they did. Jason called Ryan. He didn't answer. He emailed. Nothing. Finally, he showed up at our house. He knocked 3 times, harder each time. When I opened the door, he didn't look smug anymore. No sunglasses. No cologne. Just panic. We need to talk. I didn't step aside. We don't. You ruined my life. No, I said calmly. You ruined your life. I just made sure it stopped leaking onto mine. His jaw clenched. I should have known you'd pull something like this. You always thought you were better than us. I didn't have to think it. You confirmed it every time you opened your mouth. He tried to push past me. I blocked the door with my hand. Jason, let me be clear. I'm not scared of you. I'm not sorry for what I did. And if you ever show up at my home again without an invitation, you'll find out just how seriously I take trespassing. His mouth opened. Closed. No comeback this time. He turned and walked off. Ryan was upstairs. He'd heard the whole thing. He didn't say a word when I came back inside. Just walked over and pulled me into a long, quiet hug. One that didn't ask for forgiveness. One that simply acknowledged how wrong he'd been, how much he'd let slide, and how lucky he was I hadn't walked out long before. The next few months were different. Ryan cut Jason off entirely. He blocked his number, cleared out old pictures, shut the door. He started therapy on his own. Not because I asked him to, but because he said he wanted to understand why he'd let someone like Jason stay so close for so long. He finally saw it. Jason wasn't just toxic. He was comfortable. He made Ryan feel like the cool one again. The bachelor. The untethered version of himself that didn't have to be present or responsible. Jason didn't care if Ryan was a good partner. He just cared if Ryan was a good time. And for a while, Ryan chose fun over loyalty. But fun never sticks around when things get real. Jason was gone, and Ryan stayed. He stayed through the cleanup, through the uncomfortable conversations, through the slow rebuilding of trust. He didn't try to fast forward. He just kept showing up. One night, 6 months later, we went back to the same restaurant. Same table, different energy. He raised his glass and said, "Thank you for not letting me keep dragging us down with him." I smiled. "You're welcome. And next time, maybe believe me the first time I say someone's a walking red flag." We both laughed. And that was it. No dramatic kiss. No fairy tale ending. Just two people at a table, finally sitting across from each other without ghosts in the third chair.